Hello and welcome. You are watching the Zenith Glow Astrology YouTube channel. My name is Christina and I am an astrologer. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your energy and attention. If you would, if it is in your heart, please consider liking and subscribing this video and subscribing to my channel, hitting the notification bell if you want to be updated about my new videos. All of these things help to support my work. Thank you so much for doing that. I will also post some links in the description below as to other services that I offer and other ways that you can support me. All right, today we are talking about part 2 of our eclipse season, which is the upcoming new moon in Virgo solar eclipse happening on September 21st. Oh man, there is a lot going on with this eclipse, and I am so excited to get into it with you all. It is an exciting time. It is one for the record books, let me tell you. Eclipses are a big deal in general, but this one in particular is on a whole other level. So much to discuss. Can't wait to get into it. So, if you're looking for a snapshot, if you don't have time to watch this whole video, you should find time to watch this whole video. But that's okay. Let me just tell you in a word that this upcoming eclipse is all about realignment with your truth. Realignment with your truth. It is helping each of us in our own little unique ways to get into alignment as we shift timelines. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk of shifting timelines. We've all probably been shifting a bunch of timelines because, from that quantum level of reality, we're constantly shifting timelines. But in like a big picture, vast scope, grand sort of lens, we are also aligning with our highest, most divinely aligned timeline. And that's what this eclipse is all about. It is part of a bigger portal that's actually connected to Lionsgate, that's actually connected to the new moon in Virgo that we had less than a month ago at 0 degrees of Virgo. Now we are seeing the grand finale, the culmination of this portal, right? We just had a lunar eclipse in Pisces that was also preparing us for what we are moving into now. And again, this is the crescendo, this is the cherry on top of everything. And it is sweet. It is sweet. So, wow, there's so much to get into. But again, like if you want to get a snapshot, like what is this eclipse really about? It is about aligning you with your highest truth, with your greatest authenticity. And in so doing, realigning you with your most authentic path. That path holds for you success. It is an encapsulation of your highest vision. It is a celebration of who you are at the deepest levels, at the most authentic levels. It is aligning you with the right relationships in your life, with your soul tribe, with those who resonate at the same frequency as your soul does. It is about cultivating confidence in who this person is, this authentic version of you. It's dropping all the masks, all the conditioning, all the past traumas, the karma, the layers of inauthenticity that have been piled onto you year after year of your life that have taught you so much and helped you grow and become the beautiful, wise soul that you are today. But it is time to let all of that go. Step into your beautiful nakedness as the authentic being that you are, your vulnerability, and move forward into your own version of spiritual leadership. No problem. Easy peasy. No, it really is. It doesn't have to be a difficult thing, but it is a big deal. It is a serious thing in terms of this is a big deal. So, yeah, if you want to know what this eclipse is about, there you go. You can go ahead and stop watching the video. But if you actually want to get into the detail of how this operates and what makes this eclipse special from an astrological perspective, we're going to talk about that right now. So, a few things that we need to hit on before we look at the chart. And oh, I have a few charts for you to look at. Just different versions of the same chart to help illustrate the different points I'm going to be making. But first and foremost, this eclipse is a partial solar eclipse. So the Pisces lunar eclipse that we just had was a total lunar eclipse, and that was a doozy, especially if it was hitting your chart directly. You probably felt that, did you not? It was definitely emotional. It was definitely profound, and it brought really big transformation. The Virgo eclipse will be similar. It will bring huge transformation. But in terms of lunar versus solar eclipses do tend to work on us on more subtle levels, on more emotional levels, on more internal levels. And the solar eclipses tend to operate more in the external, more in the manifestation level, bringing in opportunities, bringing in new beginnings, right? Because new moons, new beginnings, solar eclipses always coincide with new moons. So we have a door closing with the Pisces lunar eclipse, and now we have a door opening with the Virgo solar eclipse. Exciting, very exciting. What shall it herald in for you? Well, it's going to be different for each of us, and you have to look at where it lands in your chart. If you want help doing that, I am an astrologer, as I mentioned, and I would be happy to do a reading for you. There will be a link in the description box below where you can find that service that I offer. But in general, you want to look at the house in which this eclipse is falling to figure out what area of your life this will be impacting the most, as well as any planets in your natal chart that it's making aspects to. But then there's the transiting planets that are playing into this event, and oh boy, there's a lot going on. A lot going on, which we're going to talk about. First and foremost, this eclipse is happening on September 21st, okay? It will be at 29 degrees of Virgo. The anaretic degree of Virgo. We're going to talk about that. And it will be at 3:43 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. For those of you that are in that time zone, otherwise convert it to your own time zone. Oh boy, we have the autumn equinox, the September equinox happening the day after the eclipse. We have a Saturn opposition to the sun happening the day before the eclipse. We have a Neptune opposition to the sun happening the same day as the equinox, the day after the eclipse. Yeah, all of that is relevant. It all plays into the energy going on right now, not to mention the other aspects that are happening. So let's go to the charts. Let's see what's happening. So, first and foremost, I'll make it visible for you. Here we go. Okay, here we go. We got our chart here. Let's see if I can make it a little bigger. Okay, so here is our chart for the Virgo eclipse. Now, you'll notice there's quite a few lines happening there. Those are aspects. And once again, please ignore the houses. They don't matter in this particular chart. We are only looking at the planets, their relationships to each other, and where they are in terms of the signs, the zodiac itself. So we have the new moon, which is the sun and moon conjunct each other in Virgo at 29 degrees. Now, if you want to split hairs, and you know how much I love to split hairs, it's a very Virgo thing to do at this time, getting into those really tiny details. This eclipse is actually at 28 degrees 59 minutes of Virgo, but we'll just call it 29 degrees. Ooh, it is right there at the anaretic degree. That adds a level of intensity to this event. Once again, we're going to talk about that. It is also conjunct with the ruler of Virgo, Mercury. That is significant. Mercury's in the sign of Libra. We happen to have the ruler of Libra, Venus, making some prominent aspects during this eclipse. We also have our other personal planet, Mars, at 29 degrees of Libra, making a semi-sextile to this eclipse. That's all of our personal planets, folks. Personal planets are the realm of experience that we tend to take notice of because they're happening on a conscious level. They're happening personally to us. So all of the personal planets are involved in this eclipse: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. All of the outer planets are also involved in this eclipse, okay? Now, we do have Jupiter still making an aspect to the nodal axis, the nodal axis. But Jupiter is kind of operating a little bit more in the background on this one. We have our farther outer planets making bigger waves during this eclipse. So, first and foremost, we have Saturn, which is retrograde, in Pisces now, still conjunct with Neptune, which is at the 0 degree of Aries, also retrograde. Both of those planets are opposite of this eclipse. I'm just looking at it like, where do I even start with this? We have a kite aspect pattern happening, and we have 3 yods happening at the time of this eclipse. It is really big energy, folks, really big energy. So let's start with the kite, because I feel like we need to just work our way up to this. Let's see here. We'll turn this one off. Okay. See, I made little drawings for y'all so you can see what I'm talking about here. So here we have our kite. You'll notice it kind of looks a little bit like a bow and arrow or a crossbow. So we have Mercury conjunct the sun and the moon right there at the tippy top of the chart, and it is in opposition to Saturn, which is conjunct Neptune. Now, Saturn and Neptune are still forming their minor grand trine with Pluto and Uranus, which is the small triangle at the bottom of this configuration. And then Pluto, Uranus, Mercury, and the sun and moon are all involved in a grand air trine. Now, the sun and moon are at the anaretic degree of Virgo, and so they are technically an out of sign grand air trine. You can see how complicated this is getting already, right? But Mercury is in Libra, and so it is part of that air trine. So this is all very interesting. I also want to note that Venus and Mercury are in mutual reception at the time of this eclipse. What does that mean? It means that when the ruler of one sign is in the sign of another planet, when they're in each other's signs, I always explain this just so befuddled. So, in other words, Venus rules Libra, right? Mercury's in Libra. Mercury rules Virgo. Venus is in Virgo. They're in each other's signs, okay? So they're sort of like ruling each other, but really what we can consider it as is that they very much are simpatico at this time. They understand each other, they're vibing with each other, they are communicating freely, openly, they are understanding each other. It's almost like they are trying with each other in a way because that energy is flowing so easily between them. They understand each other so well. So that is very important. And then those are both personal planets, right? Mercury is our perception, our communication, our ability to manifest. Venus is our sense of self worth, our security, and the way that we relate to others and attract what we need to feel harmonious in our lives. And then we also have Mars in that semi-sextile, right, with the actual eclipse itself. So just a reminder that eclipses bring big change and transformation. So whatever they're touching is going to be transformed, right? But there's even more to the story. So this kite is actually bringing in some emphasis on this Neptune Saturn configuration, okay? Because that would be considered the apex point of this kite, right? That's where you're like aiming the bow and arrow, or that's where you're aiming the arrow It's where you're pointing your direction. Okay. So, another thing I want to note, we have a lot of bridging energy happening during this eclipse. What does that mean? It means we have planets that are at anaretic degrees or that are melding two different energies together of adjacent signs. So the eclipse itself, 29 degrees of Virgo, anaretic degree. Mars on the cusp between Libra and Scorpio. And then we have that Saturn Neptune conjunction coupling together Aries and Pisces, right? So a lot of bridging together, that in and of itself, to me, suggests alignment and moving into a different timeline. We're learning how to blend different energies. We are learning how to take the best of both worlds and really bring these archetypes into their highest expressions. We're being challenged to do that, actually. It is a little bit of a challenge. When we look at the semi-sextile aspect in astrology, it's considered a positive, beneficial aspect, but it's tricky to deal with because those adjacent signs are different elements, they are different modes, and they don't really understand each other. So it takes some effort, and these things happen on a more subconscious level, or they're happening on a more interior level. So even though the eclipse itself, being a solar eclipse, is going to help manifest something in our outer reality, there's a lot brewing underneath the surface that's helping to facilitate that. And that's what we can see happening here with these minor aspects and with this kind of anaretic bridging energy happening as these planets are sitting on the cusps of these various signs. So, wow, I just have so many notes. So many notes. So many things to talk about. But that's our kite aspect pattern, okay? Now let's talk about the yods. So, our first yod, once again, we have Saturn and Neptune at the apex of the yod. Now, a reminder for you all, if you would like it, a yod aspect pattern is also known as a finger of God because it kind of looks like a finger, this triangle shape, pointing at something. But yods imply divine realignment. Divine realignment, okay? Divine adjustments. So we have a sextile between two planets occurring at the base of the triangle, right? That is cooperative energy. Those two planets understand each other. They're on the same page. They are offering tools and support to one another. But then each of those planets is forming a quincunx or an inconjunction, two different terms for the same aspect, to a third point which forms the apex of the triangle. In this particular instance, the one we are looking at here with the pink triangle, we have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So it makes it a little extra complicated because it's not just one planet, it's two planets at the apex. But those two planets, and let's consider those almost like a single point, just for the sake of simplicity. Saturn, Neptune are forming the thing in this particular yod, the point where, the finger of God is pointing to, right? The apex. So it implies that the two bases of the triangle need to realign themselves to get into this higher octave of expression, to reorient the direction in which they are moving. And yods are difficult because the inconjunct aspect in general is difficult. It's sort of like this paradoxical energy. It's like a detour that we run into. It's like the two sextile planets are having a great time. They're going to the same party. They're ready to go hang out with each other. And then all of a sudden, they hit a deer on their way to the party. And anyway, I'm not even going to get into that. A little bit of personal experience coming in there. But the point is that something out of left field is like, bam, you have to change direction. or you have to reconsider what you thought you were doing. And the thing that comes in out of left field is God, or it is the universe, or it is your soul. It's divine realignment. It is something coming in that has a higher purpose for you. And you might be feeling like, what the what? Like, I don't understand this. Why is this happening? This is hard. This is not what I was planning on. But if you can figure out how to resolve the paradox, if you are willing to move forward with a sense of faith and trust and surrender in the benevolence of the universe, and whatever you want to call that, whatever term works best with your own belief system, that's fine. God, the universe, Yahweh, divine love, creator, whatever. It's all kind of the same thing, right? If you can get into alignment with it, if you can surrender and trust to it, you will be led to places that you never could have conceived of before. You will experience miracles. You will be boosted into your highest expression. You will be presented with opportunities that you never would have dreamed of, but that are going to be so much more beautiful, unfathomably beautiful. And it's not something you could have conceived of yourself, right? Because from our little human perspective, we don't have the ability to see far and wide enough to plan these trajectories for ourselves. They come from the soul, they come from a place of divine alignment. And that is the finger of God. And we have 3 of them happening at this time, which means we are making adjustments in lots of different ways. This is the first way, okay? So this is also the apex of our kite, right? That I just showed in the last photo. So the last diagram. So we have at the heart of this Saturn and Neptune conjunction. Now, this is really important because of what I just mentioned when I started the video, okay? Saturn and Neptune have been conjunct. Previously, they both had ingressed, that means moved into the sign of Aries. Aries is a cardinal sign. It's part of the world axis. Being at the 0 degree or in the first few degrees of Aries signifies a new timeline. It signifies a new beginning for the entire world, especially having outer planets move into that placement, right? Neptune, Saturn. Saturn does represent the world, right? It represents time itself. Neptune is our spiritual filter. It is the way that we can conceive of agape and unconditional love. And these 2 planets are fusing together. So our very concept of time and reality itself is sort of dissolving under the nebulousness of Neptune. And being in the sign of Aries, but also linking into the sign of Pisces, means that we are having our very sense, this is on the personal level, the more personal level versus like the collective level. We are having our very sense of self, of ego, dissolve before our very eyes and be reformulated in a way that is more aligned with divine creation, with spiritual destiny, with what our soul, what God, what the universe, etc., is seeking for each of us. You know, we come into this incarnation and we sort of start the first half of life and we are undergoing lessons and we're balancing out karma and we're figuring things out on this mundane level and we're playing by the rules and we're learning how to function within the matrix. And then we start to unlearn everything, right? That's when we start to cultivate wisdom, when we unlearn everything. And then we start to move into the second half of life. This is what's happening for each of us, the second half of life. This is the next chapter. This is the next stage in our spiritual ascension and growth path. And it involves completely rewriting the trajectory that you thought you were on. And that in and of itself is represented by Saturn and Neptune having moved into Aries. And again, they're going to go back into this sign, or Saturn will go back. And they're both retrograde right now. I hope I'm not confusing you. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here with my speech. But they are both retrograde right now. Neptune is at 0 degrees of Aries, but it will dip back into Pisces. I can't remember the exact date. I'm sorry, bad astrologer. I should have written it down. And then Saturn is already dipped back into Pisces, but they will both go back into Aries next year, and then they're going to be there for a while. Neptune for a long while, Saturn for, the next 3 years. So this retrograde cycle is like a last opportunity to take what we learned from Pisces and use it to help us as we move forward into the Aries stuff. The Aries stuff is all about ego, identity, purpose, and destiny, right? It's the new path forward. It's the start of the hero's journey, okay? It's the new map that we are receiving for our life's trajectory. But we kind of have to go back into the past and into the collective lessons that we learned from Pisces. Pisces is like the summary of all things. Pisces is where we take everything we've learned and we sort of dissolve it into a soup of a unified field of consciousness. But we're also choosing what we want to take with us and then leaving behind what we don't. And with Saturn in Pisces and having been there since early 2023, this has really been about cultivating spiritual discipline and stepping into your own spiritual authority. I've been saying for years now, with Saturn in Pisces, it indicates no more gurus. We are each learning to trust our own discernment and to step into our own spiritual authority. And so this has been preparing us to become leaders in our own right, whatever that means for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be in a public position or that you're literally going to be like leading other people in droves and groups, but it does mean that you step into your own sovereignty as a spiritual being and you lead yourself on your own spiritual path. And that is really what Saturn has been disciplining us to do. And with Neptune in the picture, and with the two of them working together, which it is a difficult aspect to have, we've really been challenged to step up the integrity of our spiritual heart and to move into that unconditional love and to dissolve the illusions of the mundane world, to dissolve the illusions of Saturn, right? Because every planet has a higher and a lower expression. Everything in astrology has a higher and lower expression. And that's part of the illusion of Saturn, is that you're bound by time, that you're bound by the rules of this reality, that you have to follow the dictates of society and the way that things have always been, the traditions that have been established, right? Neptune has been dissolving those things and pushing us into a higher perspective. And that perspective moves through the lens of the heart. It's through emotion. It's through spiritual understanding. It's trying to get us to our own personal guru consciousness, but not guru in the sense that I'm going to tell everyone else what's right and what to do. It's your own guru-ness. It's trusting your own heart, learning to listen to your own direct connection to the divine and what that is telling you. So this little finger of God thing, this whole thing has been ongoing, right? This whole year. It's been ongoing. But with this eclipse window, we are now ready to move into the materialization, the manifestation of these principles, these concepts, these things we've been working on an inner level in the outer reality, into action, into what we are actually doing. And this is just the first step. It's going to be unfolding over years and years. And especially going into next year, we're going to see a lot more of this. But this is the opening. This is the beckoning forward. Hello, this is the hero's journey. This is your call to adventure. Come step through the portal and begin your new journey, begin your new life. And the finger of God is like, hey, I know that you've got these ideas via Venus and Mars. Venus is like, hey, I know what I'm doing to be of service. And I know these are my relationships, and this is how I've chosen to secure myself, and this is my idea of self-worth. And Mars is like, yeah, I totally get that. And this is how I want to go about it. This is what I desire, and these are the actions that I'm planning to take. And then that little finger of God comes in, or big finger of God. And it's like, nope, you got to make sure that you are in alignment with Saturn and Neptune before you proceed. You are presented with a paradox, and you must resolve that paradox before you can move forward. That is what this particular yod is about. And I wanted to mention this. This is the last thing I'll say about Saturn and Neptune. I mentioned at the very beginning of this video that they will be opposite of the sun. Now, this is Saturn the day before the eclipse will move into opposition with the sun, and the Neptune the day after the eclipse will move into opposition with the sun. Why does that matter? Because every planet that goes through a retrograde cycle, whether that is a personal planet such as Mercury, or whether that is an outer planet such as Neptune, will eventually, during the course of its retrograde cycle, come into a special aspect with the sun. Okay, now for our two inner planets, which are Venus and Mercury, they actually do a conjunction with the sun, but all the other planets will do this via an opposition with the sun. This particular aspect during the retrograde cycle represents a culmination in that planet's retrograde cycle for that particular cycle. And it is a culmination because that aspect with the sun is the moment within the retrograde cycle when we come to some kind of conscious realization of what that planet has been working on in the underground, in the subtextual layers of its little retrograde cycle, okay? Especially with the outer planets because they function so unconsciously. We tend to feel them when they very first station, when they change direction, and then they're kind of operating beyond our awareness. But when they form this opposition to the sun, we get an aha moment. We get an epiphany, and it's usually a little bit intense. It can be, especially again, depending on what's going on in your chart, your personal chart. But it is that, oh, this is the reason I've been reviewing these things during this retrograde cycle. This is what Saturn was trying to get me to go back over and rediscover and remember and recognize, all those retrograde key terms. And because this happens via opposition, right? So the outer planet and the sun are opposite of each other. It implies that the epiphany that we have will come to us through some sort of mirroring in relationship to another. Something becomes reflected back to us that we recognize through someone else in our lives, through some kind of a relationship that we have with another person. And through that mirroring, we get that light bulb moment. And then through the remainder of the retrograde cycle, that planet is retrograde, we start to work on that. It starts to marinate a little more, and we start to work towards the direct motion of that planet when we will actually put that thing into action. Does that make sense? I can't hear you. Hopefully it does. Hopefully it does. So that's why this is also significant, because Saturn has this epiphanic moment the day before the eclipse. Neptune has its epiphanic moment the day after the eclipse, which is also the autumn equinox, the September equinox, which is another portal date in and of its own right. It is a time when the veil is thin. It is a time of spiritual intensity. And with it being September 22nd, 22, and literally the equinox is when we come into equal daylight. So night and day share the, I don't know, how would I say that? We have equal night and day. Thank you. Good Lord. So we have equal night and day on the equinoxes, right? Equalization, equilibrium, 2-2, balance, harmony, alignment, relationship, okay? These are themes that are embedded just in the numerology of that date and then literally through the astronomy, through what we are experiencing in the seasons here on Earth. We are also getting that shift, right? Where we have equal parts night and day. Okay. And then again, we have relationships implied here because Venus is involved in this. Libra is involved in this. We are bridging between Virgo and Libra with this eclipse alone. Venus and Mercury are in mutual reception. And then again, the opposition through the retrograde cycles of Saturn and Neptune, mirroring. We are having epiphanies come to us through our relationships at this time. And the epiphanies that we have are feeding directly into this Yod configuration. And the Yod configuration is telling us that some kind of divine realignment is at play. Let's move on. We have another Yod. It all just depends on how you look at it. This is another Yod that's going on. This one has Venus at the apex of the Yod. It has Pluto in Aquarius, and it is forming a sextile to Saturn conjunct Neptune. And each of those is forming an in conjunction to Venus, with Venus at the apex of the triangle. So we also have a realignment going on here. Now, whenever we have outer planets aspecting the inner planets, the outer planets are influencing the inner planets. So we have Pluto and then Neptune and Saturn, and they are each influencing how we enact our Venus. And what is Venus? Well, Venus is how we relate to other people. Venus is what we need to feel loved, how we want to express our love to other people. And Venus is our sense of values and self-worth. What we value and how we perceive ourselves and our own self-worth is what we will attract to ourselves, consciously or unconsciously. Venus is magnetic. She attracts, okay? So it is the principle of attraction that exists within us. And these three planets are asking Venus to change her ways to get into better divine realignment. Pluto is the planet of transformation, and being in Aquarius, this is our cord of truth coming through. Remember, I said that this eclipse is all about aligning us with our truth. It is literally pushing us in the direction of greater authenticity. It is asking us to get into the core of ourselves. Venus and Virgo. What is the core of your soul? What is your sense of I am within you? The I am is your personal expression of the divine. We are all I am, right? We're all just different expressions of source playing itself out in infinite variations, but each of us holds a different chord, a different frequency, and we are all contributing to this symphony that we are all playing together. What is the chord that you hold within you, buried underneath all the layers of societal conditioning that you have undergone since you've been incarnated on this earth? You are getting to the core of who you are, and you are being challenged to recognize who that is in your deepest, most authentic truth. And then how are you valuing that or not valuing it? And the way that you value that authenticity is going to be reflected in your relationships. So, the types of relationships you have in your life. Now, this can be any kind of relationship, right? Any kind of mirroring that you are experiencing with another person. Romantic, familial, friendships, working relationships, acquaintanceships, your landlord, whoever it is, right? We have relationships with other people. We attract those relationships unconsciously based on the frequency that we resonate at. And that frequency is a direct result of what we value and what we choose to enact or not. Okay, so we are being challenged to go into the core of ourselves at this time. Venus and Mercury are in mutual reception right now. Mercury is saying, yeah, let's think about that. Let's examine that. Let's communicate in our relationships to figure out, are we in harmonization? Does this align with who I truly am? Are my relationships reflecting my self-worth? Am I receiving what I deserve? Am I giving what I can? Is it in alignment with the type of service that I want to offer the world? Does that service align with my truth? Is this really who I am? Okay, all of this. Anything that doesn't align with your truth at this time, at your core soul level, each of us has that little note that we are playing in the symphony. If you're off key, if you are off key in your note, you are going to be asked to address that. You are being poked by the finger of God to address that note and make sure that you are harmonizing with your truth at this time. So, once again, this will come through our relationships. And it is about our relationships, but it's also not about our relationships. Really, it's about ourselves and our relationship to ourselves. Because again, it all starts with the self. Whatever's going on within you is what becomes manifest outside of you, including through your relationships. So that's really what this is about. Sorry if this is kind of intruding. Oh no, it's on this side. Get away. So this is another yod that's coming through. And once again, Saturn and Neptune have a destiny. There is a new path forward. We have cultivated spiritual discipline. Pluto is getting us into our authenticity, and it's also challenging us. Hey, you have special gifts and talents, but how are you going to take those things and put them in service to the collective? You have to find a social need for what you have to offer. You can't just keep it to yourself anymore. But you also have to make sure that whatever you offer is really you, that you're not just placating the collective or following the trends or trying to fit in with the groupthink. You have to be truthful and authentic no matter what. So this is all being funneled into Venus at this time. Okay. Our last yod, we have Mars. Mars at the apex of this yod. So, similar thing going on. We're just kind of tilting the triangle here. So with this yod, we have, once again, Saturn and Neptune. Saturn and Neptune are they are the basis. They are the foundation of this eclipse. Okay. So, I mean, the eclipse is the foundation, but also Saturn and Neptune are really feeding into the themes of this eclipse. They are very, very important at this time. So, Saturn and Neptune are sextile with Uranus and Gemini, okay? Now remember, Mercury is ruling Uranus because Mercury is a ruler of Gemini. It's also the ruler of Virgo. So, but again, outer planets act on inner planets. I know that's all very complicated, but let's just say this. Uranus has been working to decondition our perception, okay? The way we think, how we perceive the world, the way we learn, the way we communicate, and how we share with other people. It has been getting us into alignment with our truth, right? Uranus is the natural ruler of Aquarius. So, as the planet of deconditioning, Uranus, along with Neptune and Saturn, are influencing Mars in this configuration. So here we have our final personal planet, which is involved. And once again, Mars is exactly semi-sextile with this eclipse. It's all interwoven, interconnected. So Mars is our desire, and Mars is our willpower, and it is our action. If Venus is attraction, Mars is projection, right? Not projection like I'm going to project onto other people, but Mars is the way that we take action. It's the way we go after what we want, and it's what we want. So we have Mars also at an anaretic degree. Mars is bridging between Libra and Scorpio. Now, this particular yod is getting an extra dose of tension because Pluto is also squaring Mars at this time. Pluto and Mars are kind of like different octaves of each other. Pluto is the higher octave of Mars. Okay. So Pluto is challenging Mars to step into that Aquarian truth. This is further supported by Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, forming that in conjunction to Mars. I hope this is all making sense, folks. I hope that the terminology isn't, creating a lot of confusion, but just know that our desires and our ambitions and what we are planning for our lives to take action on is being deconditioned at this time. It is being challenged to transform and to shift into a higher octave of empowerment on the one hand, but also integrity on the other hand, right? Because when we talk about bridging together Libra and Scorpio, Scorpio is wanting to transform into a greater sense of power. The question is, will you do that in a way that is balanced and takes into consideration other people, or will you do that at the expense of other people? Scorpio is probably our most well-known zodiac sign that has a dark side. In truth, they all have dark sides. But with Scorpio, if we want to step into the higher octave of Scorpio, we have to cultivate personal empowerment that is serving divine will. And that's really what this yod is about, okay? It is about cultivating confidence in yourself, cultivating confidence in your truth, taking that objective mirroring that we are getting from other people and using it to serve your highest good, using it to transform your shadow and to step into a rebirthed version of yourself, something that is on a different level than you've ever been on before. And it takes confidence to do that. And in order to have that confidence, you have to really trust your spiritual discernment. You have to trust your own path, your intuition, what your calling is, and that alignment with your authenticity, right? So it's not bowing down to collective pressure, and it's not compromising that spiritual integrity out of fear of judgment or failure or doubt or whatever it is that could be feeding into the negative expression of Mars. So we are being challenged in this sense to align our will and action with divine integrity as well. So I don't know if that all made sense to y'all. I hope it did. Let's go ahead and take away the diagrams. Let's see if I have anything here that I forgot about. Pages and pages of notes. Sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm just checking. I think I pretty much covered it all, but yeah. I know. I wrote down, humans make plans and God laughs. It's so true. That's kind of the energy of these yachts. It's like our little ego self has this idea of what I want. This is what's going to make me happy. This is what I desire. These are the types of relationships I have in my life. This is how I can maintain those things. This is how I can keep the equilibrium going within my life, the harmony. This is how I perceive things, and that's why I'm communicating the way I do, and why I have cultivated the relationships that I have, and why I'm taking the actions that I am, etc., etc. Things are all set up in a certain way, but then our soul comes in, that higher wisdom, that divine alignment comes in and says, well, I've actually got a different plan for you. But don't worry, because it's going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to take you to a whole new level of self expression. And on the other side of that portal are relationships that align with your deepest truth and authenticity. Can you imagine dropping all the masks that we wear and being our truest selves with other people and meeting other people in unconditional love reciprocally in that state of being and just vibing with each other? And then elevating each other into our highest expression, right? Being given opportunities that allow us to do the things that are most fulfilling. I mean, honestly, folks, this is a time when miracles can manifest, when you will be brought to the edge of what you thought was possible in this reality. And then it's going to blow wide open for you. But it is a bit of an initiation process because, again, we are challenged, right? The 29th degree of Virgo, the 29th degree of Mars, Saturn and Neptune bridging together Aries and Pisces. I mean, the 29th degree, numerologically, this reduces to master number 11. 11 is a gateway. It symbolizes initiation. Okay, so this is a bit of a test because you can't just like sit back and put your feet up and wait for the miracles to manifest. You have to meet God halfway, or the universe or source or whatever you want to call it. You have to meet it halfway, right? You are given a breadcrumb to follow. You got to follow it. You are prompted to take action here. You have to take action here. If you're shown something needs to change, you need to show back, I'm willing to change it. And when you do that, you are met with these opportunities. You are met with divine realignment. And again, it does require a bit of deconditioning or dissolving the ego in order to do this. We have to humble ourselves because, again, we always like to think we know what's best and right for us, but really we can't see the whole picture. And there is a whole grand picture unfolding, and it's beautiful, but we have to be willing to surrender and trust and have faith, and that is part of the initiation. Can you listen to your own spiritual discernment? Can you follow your inner compass? Saturn's been working on us for 3 years now. Have you cultivated that discipline? Have you learned how to listen to that inner knowing in whatever language your soul chooses to speak to you? Have you learned how to speak that language? Will you listen to it? Will you heed the call? If you do, there are beautiful, miraculous, spectacular, celebratory, expansive things on the horizon. We are being beckoned forward with this eclipse. It is freaking fantastic, and I am so excited about it. So that's my little spiel. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have the most beautiful, blessed eclipse portal. I hope it blows your mind in the best possible ways. Just know if you do feel a little bit of challenge at this time, a little bit of restriction, if you are running into detours, if you are running into full stops, recognize that that is your divine realignment in action. Stop, take a breather, reassess, and figure out what's being asked of you. What adjustments can you make? And again, you got to go inward because it's going to be different for all of us, but you have to listen to that inner call to get the right direction. But we all have it and you can do it. And I believe in you. And let's celebrate. This is so exciting. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, my name is Christina, Zenith Glow Astrology. If you want to book a reading, I will post a link in the description. Please like and subscribe to this video. Otherwise, happy eclipse. I love you all. Blessings to you all. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye.